Isaiah Martin, why are you running for the 18th district?
Well, look, the same old is not working. I mean, we see Congress is not working the way it is. We've got a crazy president that's doing everything he can to destroy our way of life. I think we got to go and stop a lot of the politics as usual that we've been seeing currently. So I'm running for Congress to go stand up to these stupid Republicans that we see in DC and to make sure we can actually make a difference in people's lives.
You said these stupid Republicans. Some of the things that people say is like they want members of Congress to work together. They say this often. And it's clear that there's a fray in Congress. Anyone paying slight attention is aware of that. If elected, how would you try to diminish the fray, try to work across the aisle, try to get Congress working again in a bipartisan way?
Well, you know, I think that we have to look at where we are right now. I mean, these are not normal times. I mean, the Republicans are literally talking about trying to gerrymander us out of oblivion. You got Stephen Miller literally declaring war on people in this country. I think that while I wish politics were normal, they're not. And so, look, we see rampant corruption in the federal government. We understand that Republicans are literally orchestrating millions of dollars being taken away from the people of our district, and we can't sit alone while that happens. So, look, while I wish we could go back to normal times, they're not, and I'm not going to treat it like they are.
What would you say are the three greatest concerns for people in the 18th?
Well, look, everybody's concerned about the cost of living. I mean, frankly, the tariffs have raised the cost of people's groceries like nonstop. They see it all the time. They go and they understand their bills are higher. It's because of Republican policies. So I want to immediately get to work to file a bill to go and axe the Trump tariffs as we see it, because I think it's long overdue. People want to be able to investigate the rampant dollars that are being stolen away directly from our district. I want to serve on the Oversight Committee so we can really get to the bottom of what we're seeing directly. And in addition to that, people are really, really sick of the fact that healthcare in this country costs as much as it does. We have one of the highest uninsured rates in the entire country. So I will absolutely support legislation to guarantee universal healthcare for every single person in this country. Yes, it will take a while to get there, but that's also why I support things like getting rid of the filibuster so we can really go forward and get this agenda done.
The government's been shut down for several weeks now. Sure. If you were in Congress, would you support what's happening right now?
Well, what we see right now is that Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And ultimately, they're literally trying to go and usher almost a complete repeal of Obamacare as we know it. We can't really tolerate that. Why? Because there's millions of people in this country that are about to see their healthcare premiums raised as a result of what Republicans are trying to do to healthcare. So look, I think people want us to be a strong and firm, unapologetic brick wall against those cuts to healthcare. And I can guarantee the people of the 18th Congressional District, I will not vote to cut the healthcare of the people of the district when it comes to this.
SNAP benefits will change in the state November 1st after the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. We did a story the other day, several people, a significant amount of people in the 18th have SNAP benefits. Right. What would you do day one to get that reversed if possible, or to help people about these oncoming changes?
Well, for one, if I'm sure that we're going to be in budget talks again very, very soon, and I can already commit that any budget that comes forward that has a cut to SNAP benefits, I will immediately vote against it. I think it's long overdue. We have to get it done. But I think in addition to that, we've also seen massive cuts to things like Meals on Wheels and other things as well. I'll be working immediately with the Budget Committee and the Appropriations Committee to make sure that we can reverse a lot of these cuts to secure more funding for our district in this area.
What kind of funding do you think the area needs, the district?
Well, look, there's a lot of things, right? Like, for example, the Environmental Justice Office was literally just cut. Why is that important? Because there's literally people in Fifth Ward, there's people in Clinton Park that were depending on the air monitors that were secured by Congresswoman Jackson Lee and President Biden to go forward and monitor a lot of the pollution that's going on in our areas. Now, what's happening as a result of that Justice Office being closed, we're not necessarily sure how much attention the federal government is actually paying towards these things. So look, I immediately want to make sure that that funding can come back. Yes, it will take a while, but it's something that we cannot stop in effort to bring that back.
I'll say one thing about your campaign is you're very digital focused, trying to engage young people to vote. There's a lot of voter complacency. We know in this race it may not have the turnout that it should. How do you change that? How do you get voters to be engaged again with every single election, or just what's going on in DC in general, or even locally here?
Well, look, I think that for a while now, we've had one of the worst voter turnouts in the entire country in the 18th Congressional District, and we've got to do a lot better than that. I think, yes, it is using the techniques that have worked for a very long time, but it's also adapting and doing something new. I'm proud of the work that we've done on social media. We've had, just last month alone, 65 million views across all of our platforms. That's been able to get so many people that have been engaged, that have volunteered for the first time ever for any campaign working with us, people that have chipped in a couple bucks just to go and be able to be involved in the process. Social media is a great way to bring people into the funnel, but it's not everything. We also have to make sure that we're in the streets, going to the senior facilities, going to go talk to people directly at high school football games. It's a big thing that we love to do, to go and talk to people about what the issues are of the day. We have to engage people everywhere, yes, online, but also in person. And I think I'm the only person in this race that fully understands directly how to reach other people as well.
Are you seeing that engagement? Are you seeing people going from views to becoming voters?
Absolutely. Like I said, I go to high school football games every single week. I was just at the Yates and Wheatley game. People are telling me about how they love to watch our videos on social media. We post a lot of our debate clips, and our debate clips have got millions of views across the internet because, while the individual forums and debates might get, a few people in the audience, it can reach so many more outside of that. And coupled with the fact that we're up on television now, we have a lot of ads going around because of the support of so many people that have chipped into our campaign. We're really bringing an approach that's reaching everyone everywhere we can.
You talked about your ad on air, and there's some discourse online, and I saw the video of you addressing it, questioning just exactly what role you played with the late Sheila Jackson Lee's office. Your ad says senior advisor. People question what role you had at all.
Well, look, Congresswoman Jackson Lee's chief of staff came forward and said that, look, I was her senior advisor. I was absolutely that senior advisor that worked with her on a lot of issues that she had. And look, it's just online smears. And look, I get why people from some of the other campaigns are a little nervous right now. We just set a fundraising record. The largest ever fundraising quarter in the history of the 18th Congressional District came from over 35,000 people chipping in an average of $19 a person. I'm the only candidate in the race that can say I firmly want to get rid of all big and outside money. So now all of a sudden that I outraise all the big interests in town, the attacks start coming. I wonder why.
You think this is...
I think we see the microphone.
Do you mind just putting it on the ground? I think that would be the best thing.
Yeah.
Do you believe this is not just online chatter, but people from other campaigns actively trying to push back against you?
Absolutely, because they didn't expect for us to go and raise as much as we did. I mean, we are now in a position where we have outraised those other campaigns because of the support of thousands of people chipping in very small amounts. That's something that we frankly haven't seen at scale in this city in terms of use in politics. So look, I get why to a lot of those folks that might be threatening, and I understand why they're up to do these ridiculous smears. But at the end of the day, the truth will always prevail, and no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And I feel really strong about that.
Why do you think people watching this should vote for you? Why do people watching, why should they vote for this quote unquote newcomer?
Because I think every time I go to one of these football games or I go to a church service, people are telling me they feel as if nobody is fighting for them. They've seen a lot of these folks that have been in elected office for a very long time. They've seen them and, they feel as if they come to them during election season, or they feel as if they're supported by an establishment, but nobody's actually looking out for their best interests. I was at a Civic Club meeting just last night, and somebody comes up and tells one of the other candidates, well, how come I haven't seen you before? This is my first time ever seeing you, and early vote starts next week. It's because so many of these politicians take people for granted. And what I can firmly say is that I will never take the people of the 18th Congressional District for granted. I'm somebody that understands the issues, knows how the federal government works, and somebody that can bring a fresh perspective against a lot of this stuff. I'm going to be very aggressive against Donald Trump. The I in Isaiah Martin stands for investigating the daylights out of Donald Trump. I'm going to do that for the people of the district. I want to make sure that I'm serving the people of the district, and I look forward to humbly asking all of them for their support in this election.
So we have some viewer questions. A Facebook viewer asked, without sounding prejudiced, Sheila Jackson Lee never had any meetings concerning her other constituents. Will you address the whole district?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that we've done in our campaign was near nightly TikTok town halls, in which we allow for folks to come on. We get an average of about 15,000 viewers per night, and they can come and ask me any question. So that means that if they have an issue with something that I've said, or if they've heard a rumor that someone said about me, or if they want a piece of legislation that's co-sponsored, they don't have to just write the office, which I do encourage them to do that as well, but they can come and talk to me directly. I'm going to be somebody that's successful. I'm going to be somebody that's going to be going again to bazaars and football games and church services, going to meet people where they are, and I will commit to doing those in-person town halls that I do think that we've been missing as well. So I want to commit to having that accessibility factor, that I'm always just going to be Isaiah, but I'm also going to be able to be around and available for people to come and talk to me directly in person.
Is the plan to keep the TikTok chats if you are elected?
Absolutely.
Like ongoing?
Absolutely. You know, I think it's innovative. I don't think a lot of people do it per se. I don't think anybody does it actually, because, you know, I think that for so long there's this level of like scriptedness that's in politics, in which there's only, you know, certain questions you want to answer, certain questions you don't want to answer. I answer everything. I don't care where the question comes from, who it comes from, what it is, what the motives are. I answer everything. And I think that ultimately, I think that level of transparency is what we so badly need at this moment, because I think for so long politicians have felt that, you know, that people are supposed to cater to their whims per se. I would think it's the reverse. I want to make myself as accessible as possible so I can make myself as directly available as possible.
Speaking of TikTok, TikTok viewer question was, what are you going to do about homelessness in our area?
It's a great question. So, for example, I was a big supporter of the Housing First initiative that Mayor Turner and Congresswoman Jackson Lee worked on, in which they used federal funds to effectively secure long-term housing for a lot of those that are homeless. I think that one of the big issues is, ever since that American Rescue Plan funding ran out, we haven't been able to continue programming as such. So I think that there needs to be a national homeless bill in which we're effectively creating those funding sources that we can go back to what we were doing. Housing First essentially says that before we're going to go and bog you down with all these requirements, we're going to help you get a roof over your head first. And we saw that one of the largest rates of people to completely become self-dependent, not need any type of government services, happened as a result of that policy. I want to bring that back. People were coming from all around the country, all around the world, to meet with Mayor Turner and the Congresswoman about this program, but we had to not continue it because the funding ran out. I want to bring that funding back. I want to work with partners, like I said, on the Appropriations Committee, people like, I want to work with all of them. I want to work with the Budget Committee as well. Brennan Boyle's on that Budget Committee, Rosa Delores at Appropriations. I want to work with them to be able to get this done for all of us.
How do you pay for it?
Well, look, it's going to require us to be very aggressive. And so, look, we got to go look at those that make over $1 billion a year in gains and make sure we put a property tax on that. I support putting a top corporate tax rate back up to at least 30%. I believe in saying that we need a billionaire minimums tax of at least 25%. So before one can use any type of deduction per se, they got to pay at least 25% of their income. I think that's going to be a lot further. Look, in the 1990s, Bill Clinton was rolling around and had us in a surplus with 35%. I'm trying to get to at least 30, right? So that is still a lot more giving, I guess, than a lot of other people might say. But look, it's going to create so much revenue into the country that we can use to fund these programs, and I fully support even going further than that.
There's sort of a national attitude about Democrats needing to be fighters. Are you the fighter for the 18th? Fighting for the 18th, not just fighting against Trump?
Absolutely. I mean, because look, I think it's about understanding the direction of where we are. Like, we're not in normal times. And I think that so many times people can, act like this is an elephant in the room, but it's reality. So what that means to me, look at, for example, Greg Abbott just stole 5 congressional seats from us here in Texas for Democrats. He just did it whenever he wanted. Ultimately, I support what Gavin Newsom is doing in California to go and gerrymander Republicans out of their seats without really an ounce of mercy. And I think that that's the exact same approach that blue states need to do as well. I think Illinois needs to do the exact same thing. Colorado needs to follow behind. New York needs to follow behind. We cannot just sit here as Republicans take seats now in Missouri, as they're planning to do in Indiana, as they've just announced in North Carolina without an appropriate response. I want to work to lead the national conversation on this issue and work to encourage state legislators across the country to do that. I know I'll be in Congress, but that national megaphone will really be important to get this done.
Talking about the redistricting points, there's redistricting happening in the 18th, in the 9th, and several districts in general. Why run for the 18th now when you could wait until March when the primaries begin and run then?
Look, I mean, this race started before all of that, but I think ultimately I'm running to represent the 18th Congressional District as it previously was, largely because we have not been with a voice in a very long time. You know, we need somebody that understands how to get federal funding on day one, right? So for us, because we haven't been able to get so many community grant funding requests, because we haven't had a member of Congress, there's so many local organizations, nonprofits, or whatever that have not gotten their federal funding. I went through this process being an advisor with the Congresswoman. I understand the issue. I know how on day one to go to those committees to get things done immediately, and I want to get to work on that.
I sort of alluded to the 9th, and it's kind of the elephant in the race of this, if Congressman Al Green will run in the new 18th when it takes effect next year. Is that any concern to you at all if he does do that in March?
No.
So your intention is to keep running again to the remainder of Turner's seat and for re-election if elected?
Absolutely.
Clear as day. What is something that you think people don't know about you that they should?
That's a good question. I'm a real big open book, you know, and so I feel like I've lived my life on the internet for a very long time now. You know, look, I think people, I'm a person that is just a regular dude, right? Like I love playing basketball with my friends like everybody else. I love, like, one of the things I like to do sometimes when I'm campaigning, if I see some kids hooping in the park, I'll go hoop with them, right? I'm just the guy that really am just frustrated about the current sense of politics that we're in. I'm somebody that feels as if our party's not fighting back, that we need a lot more an aggressive Democratic Party when the current times that we're in, and I just couldn't sit on the sidelines. So, you know, the reason why we campaign differently, you know, no other candidate goes to all the football games, no other candidate goes to all the civic clubs, no other candidate does all these things, because I just personally think that people need to see the people that want to serve you. It shouldn't be based on what somebody else says or what, you know, an establishment might say. It should be about what you want for yourself. And I look forward to bringing that approach, not just as a candidate, but as a member of Congress as well.
Cool beans. I think that's everything I have. Ray, anything you can think of by chance?
With both late Sheila Jackson Lee and Mayor Turner, is there anything that you want to carry on in their footsteps that you think that they accomplished that you want to expand on and make it better?
You know, it's actually a good thing you said that. One of the biggest things that the Congressman would talk about all the time, I mean, just all the time, was the Emancipation Trail, which was supposed to be a trail from Galveston to retrace General Granger's footsteps into Emancipation Park of the slaves that had literally made that journey over time. I think that we have to go and bring that back into the national conversation to create a national Emancipation Trail. Because it's really important for me as a young person, because I don't want my future kids to forget about the legacy of those that came along that journey. But in addition to that, along that trail, I want to include the work of those other members of Congress that served in this seat. I want to talk about Mayor Turner, Congressman Turner. I want to talk about Congresswoman Jackson Lee. I want to talk about Craig Washington and Mickey Leland and Barbara Jordan. I want them to be known because I don't want the next generation to forget our history, because Republicans are doing everything they can to erase our history as we know it. I'll also be submitting requests to go and create new federal post offices in the honor of Congresswoman Jackson Lee and Congressman Turner, because I think that their names should be known. I want Congressman Turner's to be in the Fofo and Acres Home, and Congresswoman Jackson Lee is right in 3rd Ward. I think that that is how you can really make sure that when kids drive past those signs and they see that, they can say, who was Congressman Turner? Who was Congresswoman Jackson Lee? And they will be sparked to go and learn about them in their own time.
Obviously, I'm sure you hope you win outright in November, but if this does run into a runoff, what changes?
Nothing. We're going to keep on running. We're going to keep on working hard. You know, look, I started this morning at 6:45, and I went to the bus stop to go and greet voters as they are going into work. I went and I looked at the lines that were coming in, and I came and I went and I greeted them. That's going to continue. It's that relentless energy that I have to go everywhere, to go and be online, in person, everywhere. I think that's what people are looking for. I am not going to be somebody that sits in an ivory tower. You know, it's just not me. I'm a hands-on person because that's how Congresswoman Jackson Lee taught me to be. That's how she was. She went to so many events a day, 20 events a day. You would see her in DC one day and then be back home at a funeral the next day. I'm going to bring that same type of energy with a new twist, of course, but to make sure we can get things done for the district.
All right. Isaiah Martin, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.